Well, the Biden administration has indeed launched a program to allow U.S. citizens to accept 100,000 Ukrainian refugees fleeing that U.S. NATO imperialist war-ravaged country. All U.S. citizens can submit an application through the Department of Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, to sponsor Ukrainian refugees, and the requirements for refugees are that they must have been residents of Ukraine as of February 11th when the war started, have a valid passport, pass security checks, and complete required vaccinations. All those who are sponsored are automatically eligible for work authorization. This program is another piece of the USCIS humanitarian parole program, whereby people who the U.S. would otherwise probably not allow into the country are given temporary admission due to urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. That's what they say on their website. Now, I think the use of the word parole is weird. I'm not sure what part of seeking refuge and asylum is considered criminal, as to name the process for granting temporary immigration approval for humanitarian reasons parole. But it feels like CIS is saying, how dare these people commit the crime of wanting to come to this country, especially after U.S. policy contributed to the destabilization of theirs. But I digress, because programs to sponsor refugees from other countries do already exist, but they are different from this new one established for Ukrainian refugees. Now, the existing programs are the Haitian Family Reunification Parole Program, the Cuban Family Reunification Parole Program, the Central American Minors Refugee and Parole Program, discretionary options for military members, enlistees, and their families, the Filipino World War II Veterans Parole Program, and the International Entrepreneur Parole Program. Now, the requirements for the options for military members, enlistees, and their families is directed at non-citizen, current and former military service members and qualifying family members of current and former military service members. The Filipino World War II Veterans Parole Program is limited to Filipino World War II veterans and their U.S. citizen and lawful permanent resident spouses to apply for parole for certain family members. But if you're like me, you definitely wonder how people could enlist in the U.S. military and serve, but still have to apply for citizenship. But that's America for you. Use you up to fight the battles of the empire, then tell you're not good enough to live in it. And then the International Entrepreneur Parole Program it's just a way for foreign businesses and the foreign business class to be allowed to live in the U.S. and make money for the U.S. The requirement says their stay in the U.S. has to provide a significant public benefit, but you and I know what they mean is how the U.S. government would benefit. But I digress again because my focus is on those programs for refugees seeking parole from particular countries. The one thing the programs for Haitian, Cuban, and Central American minors have in common is that the applicant, that is, the person living in the U.S. who is seeking to receive refugees from those countries, have to be related to the persons they're applying to host. But that's pretty much where any commonality ends. All of the requirements are different for each program, and some of the information is really just confusing and hard to understand. And honestly, that's the first thing that raised my inequality alarm. Why does an immigration program, any immigration program, have to be different from requirements for other countries? And if they are different, what's the justification for the difference in requirements between countries? Now, I didn't check every single link, but the requirements for the Haitian and Central American Minors Program are way more complex than for the Cuban program. And, well, come on, you know why that is. Then the fees for the Haitian program are listed right on the webpage for that program. And as you guessed, they ain't cheap. $2,210 for each person being applied for if the application is through the humanitarian program, but around $660 if the process begins through an immigrant visa. But there's no fee schedule listed on the Cuban program requirements page, even though there are links to a fee schedule where people can find out what their fees are depending on what forms they have to fill out. Is it me, or is it weird to list the fees for the program for Haitians right up front, but not for any other program? Seems sketchy, but I'm trying to chalk this up to bad web design and not, blatant racism, hoping that people won't apply for the program for their Haitian family members when they see how much they have to pay per person. And then the Central American Minors Program has no fees associated with the application that I could find through all the links. Probably do have fees, but they're hard to find. But they do require DNA testing for applicants applying for minor children. Nobody is testing Cubans to prove the people they're applying to host are relatives of them, though. But Biden's program for Ukrainian refugees, that's real simple. Ukrainian refugees have to have a valid passport. They have to have lived in Ukraine as of February 11th. They have to have a supporter in the U.S. who can prove that they can financially support them for up to 2 years. That person doesn't even have to be a relative, and that's pretty much it. The U.S. is responsible for the chaos it created in Ukraine, absolutely. But it is also responsible for similar chaos that this government has created in Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Libya. But it hasn't extended an immigration program like the one just made up from whole cloth for Ukrainians, for any of those people. And you know why that is. Follow Luqman Nation on patreon.com/LuqmanNation for lots of great content.